So you've made the decision to sell your business. Next question, who's going to buy it? I want to dig into a two-part series here. First one's going to be the macro considerations. Second part, for later in this week, is going to be the micro considerations, where we want to figure out exactly who buys these businesses and how do you figure out who the best firm or company is going to be to acquire your business. So the macro considerations, before we start digging into the titles and the specific people within the companies, we're going to look more at the complexion of the acquirer. So first, we want to say geography. Now look, there are global companies that acquire businesses, however, primarily in middle market, low middle market companies. Good first place to start is going to be something geographically proximal. And so it doesn't need to be in the same state. It doesn't even need to be in the same side of the country. But the odds of a Japanese acquirer buying a $1 million EBITDA company in Oregon are going to be less than a California private equity firm or Colorado private equity firm or strategic that operates primarily in the United States, right? So that's a good first place to think about. The second is going to be industry. Have they been in your industry? Do they have experience in your industry? Have they had companies in your industry? Do they have companies in your industry, right? And so there's a bit of a scale there, but largely speaking, is there relevant experience? We'll get to it at the end of the video relative to a key observation we've made throughout our track record. It's a lot easier if people are all speaking the same language to start. The next is going to be direct product and service correlation. And so if someone does the same exact thing, if a company they own does the same exact thing that your company does, you're going to be even more so speaking the same language, and it's going to be a conversation that makes sense, and those people should be on your radar. Next should be adjacent products and services. Now, we've talked in the past about how companies are acquired for fundamentals, access, and capabilities. And capabilities is particularly where some of these adjacent services and offerings can make sense. So what we mean by this is that if you have a pool cleaning company and there's a company that does pool supplies, pool installation, and pool maintenance that does not involve cleaning, maybe structural rehabilitation, whatever it may be, if they really could use, or if it makes perfect sense for them to have this capability, given that they're selling to the same customers, given they're already paying to get access to those same customers, well, that can make a lot of sense. And so we not only want to look for direct services and offerings, but adjacent services and offerings, because if that can be where you're the missing puzzle piece, there's lots of value to be had there. The last is going to be size. Now, it's not to say, again, we sell companies that are $2 to $3 million in EBITDA to billion-dollar companies. And again, when you look at fundamentals, access, capability, that access and capability can get you into those conversations. However, again, we always want to look at concentric circles of what are the highest probabilities and then move towards the lower probabilities. And it doesn't mean that the lower probabilities necessarily mean higher values or better structures. Oftentimes the things that are right down the strike zone are where people can be most aggressive. But nonetheless, look at companies that are not that different in size, right? A few steps ahead, right? And so if you're a $1 billion EBITDA company, look for the $10 million EBITDA company. If you're the 10 million EBITDA company, look for the 100 million EBITDA company. Again, we cover all grounds, and so when we're talking to people, when we're turning over rocks, we are talking to the $1 billion company for the $1 million EBITDA company. However, if we were to kind of show, again, concentric circles of probability of reaching the optimal outcome, it's going to be where things are most aligned, where there are those Venn diagrams of sorts, where it's not too many standard deviations beyond kind of where things are at the current junction. And so to recap the macro considerations for finding a buyer for a company, we want to look at geography, industry, direct product and services, adjacent product and services, and size. Lastly, a secret that we've found in our experience is that 9 out of 10 times, the best acquirer for a company is going to be someone that is already in that ecosystem. And that can take many shapes. It can be a strategic company doing the same thing or a similar thing. It can be a private equity firm with a portfolio company doing the same thing or a similar thing. And it can even be a private equity firm or a strategic that perhaps had experience in the past in this industry, but maybe it sold off the portfolio company, but that familiarity, that fluency in the business may garner interest. Now again, I would put that at a second tier versus those that are actively involved with it. And look, this is not to say that there's not exceptions, that people that want to be in an industry or that are entering an industry can't be the most aggressive for certain situations. It's just a lower probability. And so we as a firm always want to allocate attention in discussions to the situations that are higher probability to yield the best result for our clients. That said, again, we turn over all rocks for those people that have been in it and that have not been in a particular industry, but that's an insight to keep in mind. So while there's a broad universe of acquirers for a business, we really like to look at these variables and drill down as to who would be the best acquirers, who would be the most probable acquirers, who understands the business in a way that they can value it beyond purely the dollars and cents, and push from there. Exploring other areas, other possible suitors that may make sense that do not have the more tangible or readily perceptible involvement in the industry, but obviously allocating resources accordingly. So that's the thought for today. Keep pushing forward. God bless. We'll see everyone next time.